Mr. McDaniel loaned you $3,000, and in exchange, you gave Mr. McDaniel what?
4 checks.
Their promise to settle up was worthless.
So what happened?
I told him the account was shut down. Those checks would no longer be any good.
And their excuses.
I don't care about your troubles.
Get them nowhere.
I am not that kind of an empathetic person. That's why I make a very good judge.
He had his gun on his hip, as he always does.
This neighbor says it was to keep others safe.
We had several car break-ins. I was openly carrying, as I'm licensed to carry.
But did he take his crime watch too far?
Her niece said you approached the car with your hand on a gun.
She was on her porch screaming at me about chasing her kids, and I pointed a gun at them.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheinlin. This is Judge Judy.
Edith Sig-Reed is suing her neighbor, Richard Gorman Jr., for the cost to move a shed, harassment, and bullying.
Order. All rise. It's case number 295 on the calendar, the matter of Sig-Reed versus Gorman.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Reed, you and Mr. Gorman live in the same gated community. How long have you lived there?
I've lived there for 4 years, ma'am.
And Mr. Gorman, how long have you lived there?
3 years, sir. Ma'am.
And when, Mr. Gorman, did you become part of the Homeowners Association?
I became a board member in 2016.
Are you still a board member?
No, ma'am.
Were you asked to leave?
I was voted out, ma'am.
Okay. Each of you claim an ongoing course of conduct that is harassing with regard to a shed that you put up on your property that became a bone of contention between the two of you. When did you put up this shed?
It wasn't until about August time frame, but everything was precipitated by when I had to call the police on him because he chased my niece through our cul-de-sac and he had a gun. And she called me. I do have the police statement.
Just a second. When did that happen?
That happened in May of 2016. And
okay. Just 1 second. Mr. Gorman, were you a board member of the Homeowners Association then?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember the incident with regard to Miss Reed's niece?
In detail, yes. And I don't know if it was her niece or not.
Well, she says it was her niece.
Right.
It was somebody from her house.
Again, didn't know that at the time.
Okay, whatever it was, whether you knew it or not, it was somebody that she knew that was clearly an invited guest of hers.
Correct.
I'd like you to tell me what happened.
So, the day before this, there was an incident where we had several bees in one of the tree trunks in our association in their cul-de-sac area. Several of the neighbors in that area were complaining that these bees were problematic because I didn't want to kill the bees. I was waiting for beekeepers to come out and look at them, see if we could rehome them without damaging the tree. And so I was putting caution tape up at night. While I was putting the caution tape up, we had also had several car break-ins. I was openly carrying, as I'm licensed to carry. I had put up some of the caution tape. Car went through the cul-de-sac, extremely slow, parked in front of an area that has no houses in front of it, across from hers, and sat there. I saw some movement inside there, didn't think anything of it, walked home, figuring, okay, this is a little odd that they
I don't care what you were figuring. What time of the evening was that?
It was around 11 o'clock in the evening, ma'am.
Okay, so then you went home.
Correct. I then got in my vehicle, figuring, again,
I don't care what you figure. You went home, you got into your car.
Got in my vehicle.
You got your car, you went back to the cul-de-sac.
Turned into the street, noticed the car was still there, drove around the cul-de-sac. As I was starting to go down towards where the cul-de-sac turns, the car turned its engine on, immediately sped off, made a right at the stop sign, went down towards our pond area.
And?
I continued to follow. As I followed them, I tried to angle my vehicle towards the center of the line, kind of like if you were going to talk to somebody on the opposite side of the street. Rolled down my window. About this time, they blew past me. I went through, picked up the phone, called Bexar County non-emergency to let them know that we had a suspicious vehicle in the neighborhood. It's a gated community, and I was going to ask that they be aware and then ask this individual to not come back if they didn't live there or anything. As I was calling them, they turned down back to the same street. So as soon as they turned, they stopped in front of her house, and several people got out of the vehicle. At that point, her husband was out there, and she was on her porch screaming at me about chasing her kids, and I pointed a gun at them. On and on and on.
Well, let's stop for a moment. Did the police arrive?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see the report.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm the one that called the police. I called 911.
When did you call 911?
So my niece was coming home from boot camp, and she was coming to surprise her mom, who was at my house. So when he started up the sidewalk on foot, he had his gun on his hip, as he always does, and he made sure that she saw it.
No. Now listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
He had his gun on his hip.
Yes, ma'am.
As he was doing what?
Approaching the vehicle.
You mean when it was first spotted in your cul-de-sac?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So your niece called you?
Yes, ma'am.
And you called the police?
Yes, ma'am.
And reported that someone with a gun had approached your niece in a car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I had never seen him before, and that's why she drove off.
Well, it's clear she called the police.
Correct. I called Bear County non-emergency.
Just a second. She called the police, not
Correct.
you. Okay.
Well,
She
I mean,
called the
according to that
police,
report,
and
I
she
called
called
through non-emergency, which is a
Listen
whole
to me,
situation.
Mr. Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
She called the police on you. She made the first report to the police.
She called me 911.
She made the report about you when you first saw her niece in the car, and her niece said you approached the car, that's what the police report says, with your hand on a gun.
The police report says that?
Yes,
the
it
police
says
report does not
complainant
state that.
says male in the area. He drew a firearm and said that he had the right to carry a firearm. Male
Correct.
chased them around the neighborhood. Male is parked in front of complainant's home.
Correct.
Male is in a gray Dodge Charger.
Correct.
Brandished a firearm to the complainant and her nieces. Male kept asking complainant if she wanted to see it. Complainant's husband is outside speaking with the man at this time. Male just displayed the weapon, no disturbance. That's what it says.
Correct.
That's not you calling a non-emergency number. I don't give a rat's behind whether you called a non-emergency number.
Fair enough.
The way you presented it to me, you made the phone call first, when in fact the plaintiff made the phone call first about your strange behavior.
Incorrect, ma'am.
No, that's not incorrect.
Yes, ma'am. So, Bear County non-emergency, when you call their
No,
non-emergency
listen
number,
to me. I want you to
911 call takes precedence first.
I want you to listen.
I'm listening to you.
what I just said to you.
Correct.
And what you said to me, Mr. Gorman.
Correct.
You said to... Do you live with him?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to remember what you said to me. What you said to me was you were putting up some tape.
Caution tape, yes, ma'am.
Don't repeat what I say. I didn't ask you anything. I have a very good memory. You were putting up some tape and you noticed a car sitting opposite the plaintiff's house. You finished putting up the tape and you went back to your house. Now, at
Correct.
that time, you had to walk back to your house, get your car. In between that time, her niece called her from the car and said there is a man with a gun. So evidently, when you saw her sitting in the car, somehow she saw you with your hand on a gun. Then you went and got your car. You came back. She perceived your car and took off. You followed her. You said to me it was at that time that you called a non-emergency number reporting. She had already called the police. According to this. She had already called the police on a suspicious man with a gun.
The call time was 23:41:58 is when they picked up that time. I called them around 23:30, if not before that, reporting that a suspicious vehicle was in the area. However, I had to wait and hold queue before I could talk to anybody because
Mr.
911 takes priority.
Mr. Gorman, you were out of line.
How so, ma'am?
Just a second. You were out of line. It's the same reason they voted you out of the Homeowners Association. All right,
That's a
now
different
let's
story.
move on with... Now I would like to hear about the shed.
So Mr. Gorman and my neighbor directly behind me were complaining on Facebook that I had a shed on the property. I hadn't received permission. It was too large. The roof composition wasn't the same. So the neighbor directly behind me.
Do you have a photograph of your shed?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to take a look at it.
So I was asked to...
Not what you were asked to. You're showing me a picture of your shed.
It's in black and white.
Is there any reason why anybody takes a black and white picture?
Well, I printed it. I apologize. It wasn't... I printed it.
Why? Why didn't you just bring me the picture of the shed?
I left an entire folder. I apologize, ma'am.
Where?
At home.
Well, that's not my problem.
Right. So
Okay.
I have a violation notice here. I was told to get into compliance. The roof composition had to be the same. I hired an individual to come. It was actually a metal roof.
What was it supposed to be?
It was supposed to be the same as my home. So
Okay.
I did that. So
Okay.
then I was told in the violation notice that...
I'd like to see the violation notice.
I was told that I needed to get into compliance and request permission for the
Let me
shed.
just look at the notice.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it says that you had until August 31st of 2017. So this was a year after the original incident with your niece.
Yes, ma'am. However, in between, Mr. Gorman had approached my son at the basketball court, harassing him.
Let's get to the violation.
Okay, so I filed the notice, and it was denied, and they said that I wasn't...
Don't tell me what they said.
Well, the letter.
Show me.
It says that...
Don't tell me what it says. I can read. Okay, so they said that it was not placed 5 feet from either the back property line and the side property line, and that it appears to be greater than 8.5 feet tall, which is not in compliance with their regs. Was that accurate?
No, ma'am. And I also have pictures of, in our community, this one that has a rusty roof.
May I see it?
And these obviously are not 5 feet from the fence.
Well, they all look like nice roofs.
They denied it, saying that I wasn't 5 feet from the fence. None of those are 5 feet.
I don't know. What does your shed look like? Now, you have a picture of everybody else's shed in color.
Yeah.
I would like to see your shed.
I don't have it.
Well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Not my problem, Miss Reed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's a very good thing that you were voted out of office.
I disagree.
Oh, I don't think so.
Our
I think that the
community is
people
already
were
being run
probably
into the
very
ground.
smart.
For what?
I don't answer your questions.
Fair enough.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Edith Sig Reed says neighbor Richard Gorman Jr. patrols their subdivision with a gun. She is suing for harassment, bullying, and the cost to remove a shed. Richard is countersuing for harassment.
So they brought an action against you?
Yes, ma'am.
The Homeowners Association?
Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Gorman also was the one in court when the lawyer told me...
Listen to me.
I apologize.
Listen to me.
Yes,
Don't
ma'am.
tell me what the lawyer told you. The Homeowners Association brought a cause of action against you.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the result of that case?
It was dismissed.
And what happened to your shed?
I moved my shed because I was just done. Yes, ma'am.
You moved your shed?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you move your shed before or after the case was dismissed?
Before.
How much before?
We went to court in April. I moved it in January. January 12th, exactly.
And it was dismissed in April?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you had moved the shed?
Yes,
ma'am. Okay, so you knew the shed was in the wrong place. You moved it. As a result of your moving it, they dismissed this case. Am I missing something? Did you
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
trial?
Yes, ma'am.
And the Homeowners Association lost the trial?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the decision? Is there a written decision on that?
May I correct a few statements that she made before? One of the things that she had stated was I was present for the hearing. I had not been present for any of the HOA
not what I
hearings.
said.
There was only one HOA hearing I was present for, and that was when we were suing our property management company, and I asked for a temporary injunction with the separate counsel. So that was the only time I've ever showed up for court. I did sign an affidavit as president of the association showing that she had been in violation since August, and that we followed the Texas Property Code 2.
I want to see why they dismissed the case.
We agreed.
No, I want to see the court's decision, not what you say, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Gorman. I found a little bit of your statement to me previously about what happened with the plaintiff's niece a little disingenuous.
I'm sorry that you feel that way, ma'am.
I do
However,
feel that way.
that's not the way it happened.
I do believe that.
I mean, the police report obviously shows I didn't do anything wrong, or I'd been cited or in handcuffs.
You say the police report shows that you didn't do anything wrong. I don't interpret it that way.
Then why wasn't I
don't
cited?
interpret-
Wasn't I arrested?
I don't interpret what the police officer reported in the police officer's report as you doing nothing wrong. Do you want me to read it to you again?
I've got a copy of it. If it was,
says,
I would have been arrested, and Texas Law Shield would have been involved. And Texas Law Shield had already advised me before the PD even showed up that I'd done nothing wrong.
It's a very good thing that you were voted out of office.
I disagree.
Oh, I don't think so.
Our
I think that the
community is
people
already
were
being run
probably
into the
very
ground.
smart.
For what?
I don't answer your questions.
Fair enough.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I see 2 cars in the driveway, 1 car in front. Okay, and?
That violates the parking restrictions that we have in place under the DCCNRs that she agreed to when she signed her house.
Just listen to me. I would suggest you move
trying to.
fast as you can.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Edith Sig Reed says neighbor Richard Gorman Jr. harasses her family, claiming he patrols their subdivision with a gun.
May I see the decision of the court? Now, the court granted plaintiff's motion for partial summary judgment, and that all of the defendant, that was you, counterclaims and requests for affirmative relief are dismissed with prejudice. So you were the defendant in this action, but it granted partial summary judgment.
Yes, ma'am. I had
You had moved the shed
Yes, ma'am.
in January.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So two things that you've spoken to me about, which were the two most relevant in here, was the incident with your niece that happened in 2016. I've already told Mr. Gorman what my opinion was about that. I think he was overzealous in protecting the neighborhood, and he probably exposed the fact that he was carrying a gun on his hip, and it was frightening. That was 2016. Now we get to the shed. And the only way that I would consider the shed a form of harassment, because there were other people who had sheds that were similar and may not have been compliant, so that you were being singled out, you would have to establish to my satisfaction that the entire homeowners association who filed this case against you after a year and a half of being told to move it and not moving it were in some way conspiring with him to get even with you for something.
It was 3 months, ma'am. And there's only 2 board members.
There's 3.
I didn't ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm telling you what I'm ruling.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact that other people did something wrong and that therefore you could do something wrong never washed with me.
Yes, ma'am.
As a judge. If you know that you're not supposed to build a fence that is certain height, certain distance, and you do it anyway, and you haven't asked permission to do it, that falls on you.
Yes, ma'am.
He has a counterclaim, which is ridiculous. First of all, you do not stand in the shoes of the homeowners association, so you can't sue on their behalf.
Actually, yes, ma'am, I can. In the DCCNRs that she agreed to, it states that under 7.2 enforcement, the declarant or the association or any owner shall have the right to enforce by any proceeding at law or in equity all restrictions, conditions, covenants, reservations, liens, and charges now or hereinafter imposed by the provisions of this declaration, bylaws, and certificate of formation.
Listen to me carefully. The only thing that you said here was that she parks her cars.
Correct.
She parks her cars, and you're in the process of selling your house, and because of that, because she parks her car, it diminishes the value of your house.
Correct. She's in violation
Just a second. That's what you say.
Correct.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
First, you have to show me pictures of her parking in front of the house. Then you're going to have to bring on, I assume one of these people is an expert witness and is prepared to testify that the value of your house is diminished by virtue of the fact that she parks too many cars on the street. First photograph.
Here you go. The DCCNRs actually state that the violation is already
photograph.
Yes, ma'am.
I see 2 cars in the driveway, 1 car in front in a legally parked space. The other one, I don't know whether it's a legally parked space, but there looks like a car behind it.
Correct.
Okay, and?
That violates the parking restrictions that we have in place under the DCCNRs that she agreed to when she signed her house.
Just a second, listen to me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know whose cars these are.
Exactly.
Just a second. I don't know whose cars these are.
I do. For hers.
Just a second. But you tell me. The white car has a license plate of RD, and there's one behind it in the street. I don't see a license plate. The one that's on the street.
Correct. And that's the violation in the whole. She's done that multiple times where that car's been parked out in front of her house.
I don't know who that car belongs to, this car.
It would be hers. That's one of the vehicles that was parked out in
Your
front.
case is dismissed, Mr. Gorman. So's hers.
Ma'am,
move. I would suggest you move.
I'm trying to.
Fast as you can.
I've been trying to.
Good.
But this
That's
lady's
good. That's
affecting my
not my
property
problem.
Ma'am,
Move.
I've got the DCCNRs
Goodbye.
right here.
What is that excuse? You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He wanted to fly it.
A son's wings get clipped.
All of a sudden, he throws it right at it, hits the drone.
And the drone is destroyed.
It could have been anybody's Frisbee, not just mine.
When a flying saucer brings down an aircraft.
After the drone had crashed, I giggled, I laughed. The blame was placed on me after that. Knucklehead over here.
The knucklehead brought out the drone.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. This is Judge Judy.
Gayla Biekcia is suing her son's former friend, Anthony Keller, for destroying her drone while playing disc golf.
Order. All rise. It's case number 234 on the calendar in the matter of Bieksa versus Keller.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Miss Bieksa, I assume this is your son.
Yes,
And this is his friend.
ex-friend,
How old is your son?
24,
And how old is his friend?
26.
26, Your Honor.
And they were playing a game outside. You were not outside. You were in the house. Your son came inside, and I assume he asked to borrow this drone
Yes,
that you had purchased and paid how much for?
$999.99.
$1,000. When had you purchased it?
December of 2016.
And on what date did he borrow it?
Well, it was the family drone. It was a Christmas present to my whole family from me.
Listen to me.
So it was his as well. My husband and my drone, he asked to use it. Ultimately, we oversee the drone.
Does he live with you?
Yes.
When he came inside, I want to know what he said to you.
He said, can I take the drone out to film our putting? He wanted to fly it.
Now, did you see how many buddies he had outside?
He had a group of kids, of
How
guys, 6 maybe.
And how long had they been there?
They had just gotten there.
What time?
It was 10 in the morning.
Did you see them when they arrived? Did they come in to say hello to you, or did they just go outside?
They stayed outside because they were getting ready to go to a disc golf game.
A what game?
So they play in a disc golf league, and they were going to
What
disc
is
golf
that?
course.
I don't know what that is.
My son would be better to explain the whole
Have
disc
you
golf
ever
league.
seen it played?
Yes.
Well, then you explain it to me.
It's like ball golf, but they use a disc, and they have different discs to make different shots. So they were putting, which are short shots, in my yard.
So you're throwing that thing in the air?
Yes.
That's what they were practicing?
Yep, they were practicing their putting.
I don't care what they were practicing. You throw it
short
in the air.
shots.
I don't care what you throw them in the air.
Yes.
And after that, you don't know what happened until your son brought the broken drone inside.
I was inside, but
You
I was...
did?
Yes, I saw it happen.
You saw it happen?
Yes.
Interesting. That doesn't say that in here. Maybe I'm wrong.
I was inside.
Maybe I'm wrong. Your complaint doesn't say that you saw it happen. Your complaint says Casey came inside, picked up the drone, came inside and apologized profusely, telling me what had happened. And then you go on to say that Anthony took responsibility for what happened. Nowhere in here did you say you saw it happen. You said your son told you what happened when he brought in the broken drone.
I was watching them throw from the window.
Oh, well, that's interesting. That I would have put in the complaint.
You're right, Your Honor.
Of course I'm right. Now you can sit down.
Okay.
Let me hear.
So we were all getting ready to go play disc golf. All my friends came over. We were all putting, short putts, 30 feet max, really. I had a drone, so I'm like, hey, let me...
No, you went inside. You
went
got
inside,
the drone.
got the drone.
What were you going to use the drone for?
I was going to film us putting into the basket. So I brought it outside, I set it up, flew it. Was hovering about 15 feet in the air above the ground. All my friends, everyone loved it. They were throwing...
Don't tell me what they loved.
They
That
were...
calls for the operation of their minds together. They were all throwing the disc 30 feet, and the drone was 15 feet in the air.
Yes, and they were throwing their discs at, we have a basket, so it looks like this metal thing with chains hanging. And from 20 feet, it's very easy to throw it level.
Don't tell me what it's easy. Just tell me what happened.
So all my friends are throwing the discs in the basket. I'm watching from my remote on the monitor, and I'm aiming right at Anthony, and I see him look up at the drone like he's getting ready, like he's aiming right at it. And I'm like, he's not going to throw it at it. All of a sudden, he just throws it right at it with a disc very similar to this. Hits the drone.
And the drone is destroyed. Now I'll hear you.
All right, so first of all, Your Honor, Gayla was actually... Oh, sorry.
Just tell me what happened. Then you can give
Okay.
me all your editorializing.
Okay, so...
He's outside. The drone is about 15 feet off the ground.
Correct.
Which is about 3 times as tall as I am.
Okay, yeah.
So that's not too high. Go ahead.
So we were all putting, but him having the drone was unbeknownst to me. I didn't know he was flying a drone outside. I was there putting the whole time. There's about 10, 11 of us there. A bunch of us putting. There was about 4 or 5 people putting on that same basket.
You mean you didn't see the drone?
When it came over, it had flown over, and he was standing in front of his house, which is very far from the basket. He was about 50 feet away. You can control it anywhere. So I was over, I'm putting, I'm doing my thing, you know, kind of in my zone, and all of a sudden this thing just comes right in front of it, right by the basket. I wouldn't say it was 15 feet, Your Honor, but it was very close to that basket. And there was discs flying everywhere. Who's to say that was mine? There was about 4 people putting, throwing discs at that basket. It could have been anybody's Frisbee, not just mine.
Okay. Did your friend discuss with you that the drone was broken?
Yes, we had, yep.
Right after it broke?
Correct.
And what did he say to you, and what did you say to him?
I think he...
How to think?
Yep.
Think.
After the drone had crashed, I giggled, I laughed because I thought they're durable, it was no big deal. Then we found out it was broken, and since it was me, the one that was kind of snickering about it, I think that's what makes him
Don't tell me what you think. I don't care what you think.
So
you
blame was
started
placed
to laugh.
on me. Yes, the blame was placed on me after that.
Was this young man with you?
This is my friend Timmy. He was present there.
Did you ever tell the plaintiff's son that you would pay for the drone?
I told him I'd give him some money just because they were on my case about it, and I just kind of was telling them what they wanted to hear.
I want to know what he said to you and what you said to him.
I just told him that I was gonna, through text messages, said that I would give him some money.
How much did you say you would give him?
I told him that I'd give him a little bit of money to fix the drone, but I never gave them money. All I did was just text them that just to keep them off my case.
I would like to see what the texts say.
Yeah.
We have a text right here.
I'd like to see.
And I would like to put on record, Tim was not at my house when this happened.
He was there.
Listen, you're partially responsible for what happened to the drone. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Did your mother discuss with you that you're partially responsible for what happened to the drone?
No.
Well, I'm telling you, you're partially responsible for what happened to the drone. If you're flying a drone low and people are flying frisbees in the air, that sounds not too smart. You're taking a risk.
It wasn't.
You're taking a risk. You chose to take that risk.
I wasn't flying it around. I had it hovering right in one spot. It was one spot for a good 2 minutes. Everyone knew it was there. The thing's loud. You can see it. You can hear it from a distance.
What I'm telling you is, if people are throwing objects into the air to get from one place to 30 feet away, it would seem to me if you had a valuable piece of property. I've seen drones in the air, they're up 100 feet, not 15 feet, 100 feet. But you brought yours out to take low shots. I'm telling you, you're partially responsible.
I also have a picture of the basket that we were all throwing at.
Good. Well, there was an indication that you would pay for it, that it was a slow time, that you would work another job, that you took some responsibility. I'm telling you, I think that he is partially responsible for bringing out the machine and using it in the circumstance where it could get hit. But if I would have to apportion responsibility, I would apportion 75% to you and 25% to him. How much is a new drone?
About $1,000.
Well, this one you bought 2 years ago, almost 3, right?
Yes.
By the way, did it take any film that you had?
I was not recording at the time.
You were not recording. What were you doing?
I was getting ready to find the perfect angle to start recording because I just brought it out, and before we really started recording.
You just told me it was hovering in the same spot for at least 2 minutes.
It was, and I was just watching, so I was so infatuated by just how cool this view is from all my friends throwing their discs in. And then Knucklehead over here.
Don't call him the Knucklehead. The Knucklehead brought out the drone.
But he,
the Knucklehead brought out the drone. Now, it is not my sense that the defendant, who was a friend of yours and on your league, did anything consciously with... Put your hand down. If I believed your statement, then I would let you talk. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great.
On the video, he was looking right at the drone.
Just a second. I don't know that. I don't see a video.
Okay.
So I don't know what he was looking at. If you had the video on, then I would have seen it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750. We're finished. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Defendant, the plaintiff, I'm sorry, was very upset about it.
It was him. He broke it.
Almost in tears, so I just felt like...
He told me he'll take full responsibility.
I needed to do something to make him feel better, and
He said he would pay for the whole drone.
you know, help everybody out in that situation.
I hope we can move past it and
Maybe after some time, we can get past it and move on.
rip it up on the disc golf course.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Yowell versus Walsh. Step forward.
25-year-old Thomas Yowell is suing neighbor Nancy Walsh for vet bills and travel costs after her cat attacked his Australian Shepherd puppy.
Mr. Yowell, it is your claim that the defendant's cat attacked your dog.
Yes.
You want to be made whole with regard to the vet bills that you incurred. And the defendant seems to have two defenses. One, that it's not her cat, it was a different black and white cat. And the second defense is that even if it was the same cat, it's a feral cat and really not hers. Am I reading that right?
Sort of.
Well, what sort of did I get wrong?
My first defense definitely is that it's not my cat, and I have a witness to that effect. I also have pictures of 4 cats that I...
Okay, so the first defense is that it wasn't your cat.
That it wasn't my cat. The second defense I have is that I have proof that it wasn't my cat, and that Max is not a vicious cat that goes around attacking animals in our neighborhood.
Well, let us say for the moment, because I have to define your defense better.
Okay.
If your defense is it wasn't my cat, I'm prepared to hear that. I'm not prepared to listen to the fact, since you weren't there, that if it was in fact your cat, my cat has a nice personality, it doesn't bite people, it doesn't bite dogs. That's not important. If the attack took place and if it was in fact your cat, then you're responsible.
Absolutely.
Of course. Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have you ever had any problems with neighbors?
No, because I pick up, and I know exactly who this neighbor is.
Who's had a problem with your cat?
No, she really has a problem with me.
You don't in her yard.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Thomas Yowell says neighbor Nancy Walsh owes for a cat attack.
I'm not prepared to listen to the fact, since you weren't there, that my cat has a nice personality, it doesn't bite people, it doesn't bite dogs. That's not important. If the attack took place and if it was in fact your cat, then you're responsible.
Absolutely.
Of course. Okay. So when did this happen, Mr. Yowell?
It happened the evening of April 23rd of this year. I was walking my dog around our neighborhood.
And you live in the same neighborhood?
Yes, Your Honor. And as I rounded the home stretch of the nightly walk, we observed a black and white cat off to the side. About 10 feet after we passed the cat, I noticed out of the corner of my eye something running up behind us and pounced on my dog Maisie. They kind of had a little tussle on the ground, and I ended up having to, kind of kick it away, move it away with my foot, and then continued on the walk home. And once we got home, realized that, that Maisie, actually have some pictures here of the damage to her left eye. It looked like the cat had kind of clipped the eye with one of her nails. At that point, we brought her to the emergency vet room immediately, just due to the concern of the blood filling in her eye. While we were at the vet, I posted on Nextdoor, the community messaging board, with a description of the...
May I see it? Could you describe the cat to me?
That was a black and white cat, possibly a red collar or tags. That's how I figured it belonged to someone in the neighborhood because of the tags.
And it was red?
Possibly either the tags or the collar, yes, Your Honor.
You posted this the same day with the description of the cat?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, fine. Let me read what you wrote. How many other neighbors in your community have raised issues with you about your cat?
None. I will tell you this. Max is known in the neighborhood. They call him the mayor. The children love him. He sits on their patio furniture.
Let me tell you this. I'm just telling you, and I don't know if this is accurate, Miss Walsh, but the neighbor of yours who told the plaintiff who you were in a text said, "The cat is named Max, and he belongs to Nancy Walsh. I have had my own issues with her and her cat. The cat is allowed to roam free all day, every day." I'm just telling you that that's how the plaintiff got to you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What color is Max's collar?
Blue.
And the tag hanging from the collar?
Yellow?
Yeah.
Yellow?
Now sit down.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Thomas Yowell says neighbor Nancy Walsh owes for a cat attack.
I'm just telling you that that's how the plaintiff got to you, from a neighbor of yours who says that she has had issues with not only your cat, but you also have 2 dogs?
Yes. I walk every day. They never run free.
Have you ever had any problems with neighbors about where your dogs walk?
No, because I pick up, and I know exactly who this neighbor is. And let me tell you what the instance is about.
Well, just a second. So now you know that there is a neighbor, at least one, who's had a problem with your cat and your 2 dogs.
She really has a problem with me, not with the cat and the 2 dogs.
You don't in her yard.
Excuse me? No, I don't in her yard, nor do my animals. But I will tell you, the instance started with Max because that neighbor started feeding Max. So Max didn't come home for like 2 weeks. So I went and printed up a thing and put it around his collar. Please do not feed Max. He won't come home. So anyway, she stopped feeding Max. Max came home. She complained about something. I put a post up about her on the mailbox. But her problem is not with my animals. It is with Max. Because I have other witnesses and other neighbors who...
Don't just a second. Is this a witness?
This is my witness, absolutely.
Okay, good. First, tell me your name.
My name's Cindy Vanover.
What are you a witness to?
Well, I'm a neighbor. Live in the same...
Do you know anything about this incident that occurred on April 23rd?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay. So
I want you to tell me what you know about the incident of April 23rd of this year in the evening.
So I was in my home. I had seen Max on my front lawn, and I have dogs of my own in the backyard. And so I heard a commotion. So I came outside, and Max was still on my front yard. And I walked over to the corner, and it maybe 100 yards away, maybe, I could see a couple of people, and it looked, you know, there was some kind of dog fight, cat fight, dog fight. And so then I went back inside. I didn't walk over there to see who it was or what was involved, but Max was in my yard.
So you know Max?
Yes. Shh. Yes, I know Max.
What color is Max's collar?
Blue.
And the tag hanging from the collar?
Yellow?
Yeah.
Yellow?
Now sit down.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Now I'd like to see a picture of Max.
I have 4 photographs.
No, just give the pictures of Max to the officer.
Only of Max.
Only of Max. Now show me the pictures of the other cats. Is that the only picture you have? You have a phone?
No, I have lots of pictures. It's hard for me to find them,
Just
though,
a second.
I'm not...
Just a second. Who is this a picture of?
I don't know.
Where did you get the picture?
A stock photo.
A what?
A stock photo where you go online and you get free pictures, you download them.
Can I see your vet bills, please?
Yes, Your Honor. I also have the rules and regulations that the HOA set of the neighborhood. And
you don't have to show me the rules and regulations of the neighborhood. Now, when you started this conversation with me, Miss Walsh, what you said was there are 3 or 4 other cats in the neighborhood that look exactly like Max. I have pictures of them. Are those the pictures that you just handed me?
No, they are not.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $491. We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm thrilled that she's got the facts right and was able to...
The cat was not...
Family feuds in a hospital room.
The doctor asked Amanda, could she reveal my uncle's condition? And she said no.
The disrespect was unhealthy.
First, your sister cursed at her.
Yes.
And this is all happening in front of the doctor.
And the girl was sickening.
She slapped my glasses and my baseball cap off my head.
And yes, I struck her and I beat her and I did whatever I needed to do to survive.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. This is Judge Judy.
Michelle Taylor is suing her cousin, Amanda Kidd, for assaulting her while she was visiting her uncle in the hospital.
Order. All rise. That's case number 263 on the calendar, the matter of Taylor versus Kidd.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Young lady, have a seat, please.
Miss Taylor, the defendant is a cousin of yours?
Yes.
And is it your father who's in the hospital?
No, her father.
Her father?
Right. That was my uncle.
And there came a point when the defendant obtained legal guardianship. When was that, Miss Kidd?
In December of 2016, his doctor said he could no longer speak for himself because my stepmother was also in the hospital dying, and so my dad needed a legal guardian.
Was his wife in the same hospital?
Yes.
They on the same floor?
No, floors apart.
Did they see each other in the hospital?
No, they were both very ill.
Did he ever recover from his illness?
He did, but he's still sick.
Is he home?
Yes.
Are you still his legal guardian?
After all of this, we went to probate court, and I'm now power of attorney.
And, Miss Taylor, you came into the hospital.
Yes.
To visit with your uncle, and who were you with?
Me, my mother, and my sister.
On what date?
December the 3rd.
How long had he been in the hospital?
I'm gonna say about a week.
And you had already obtained guardianship of him at that time?
At that time, he was in the hospital about almost 2 months.
Had you already obtained guardianship of your father?
Yes.
When his
Yes.
sister and the plaintiff came?
Yes.
Okay, now I want you to tell me what happened, because you are claiming an assault that took place at the hospital, and the defendant actually says that she was assaulted at the hospital by you and or somebody that you came with. So you want to tell me?
We walked in the room, me, my mother, and my sister, her and another guy that was attending to my uncle. We walked in, we spoke. He was explaining to my mother.
Who did you speak to?
He's supposed to have been a guy that sat there with my uncle because he kept trying
to... An attendant?
Yes. So we left and went upstairs to see my auntie. Her sister called us, and we went back downstairs. So we go downstairs. My mother wanted to see the doctor to see, you know, what was wrong with her brother. So...
Well, the doctor can't tell your mother what's wrong with her brother.
See, at this particular time, she said she got guardianship, like, I'm going to say, 5 hours after he got in the hospital.
Who did?
Amanda.
Okay, but she is his guardian.
Exactly.
The doctors can't discuss his medical condition with strangers.
Exactly. We didn't know this at the time. And that's when the doctor asked Amanda, could she reveal my uncle's condition? And she looked up at the doctor or nurse and said no. So by that time, my sister called her evil.
So the doctor looked at his guardian, and his guardian said no. No is no. And then what happened?
By that time, my sister called her evil.
Okay, well, that was pretty stupid, because that's not a place to have a discussion in front of a sick patient who was already sick, because it's not about you, it's not about your mother, it's not about your sister, it's about the patient. So if you want to have a discussion, you have a discussion outside in your kitchen.
Exactly.
Good. You agree that was stupid?
Correct.
Keep going.
So she grabbed Amanda's leg. And my sister.
Really intelligent?
No, she kicked at her. She kicked at her. When she kicked at her, my sister grabbed her leg and she slipped and fell backwards. Which Amanda's brother-in-law picked my sister up. And I was in between them like this. And all I remember is the guy took me out the room because she hit me so hard, she slapped my glasses and my baseball cap off my head. When I got to the nurse's station, they was telling me, you need to go to ER because my finger was bent all the way back. And I'm like, it's all right, it's all right. But the next morning, I went to the emergency room, and they said it was fractured in 3 different spaces.
What you're telling me is you got in the middle of a fight.
No, there was no fight.
Well, there was a fight. If you're telling me you're holding them apart.
No.
Just a second. If what you're doing is telling me that your sister picked up her leg.
When she kicked at her.
Just a second. First, your sister cursed at her.
Yes.
And then, according to you, she kicked at your sister but didn't connect.
Correct.
And your sister grabbed at her leg, and your sister fell back, and what happened with her leg?
She was still sitting in the chair because she was still holding on to the chair. My sister let her leg go.
Just a second. Let me understand this. She was sitting.
Yes.
And your sister was standing.
Yes.
And from a sitting position, she kicked
at her.
Out. And your sister pulled her leg hard, and then your sister slipped and fell backward. And this is all happening in front of the doctor.
Correct.
And then what happened?
Well, I was standing...
Just a second. You were standing like this.
Correct.
Okay. She's sitting...
But by this time, my sister was on the floor already, and my cousin was helping her up off the floor, escorting her out the room.
Somebody was helping your sister up off the floor, and she's still sitting, holding on to the chair.
Correct.
And... Come on.
I was like this. All I remember...
Just a second. You're like this, holding your hands out.
Exactly.
She's sitting, your sister's getting up.
No, she was standing up by that time.
No, just a second. Well, you didn't tell me she was getting up. You told me she was holding on to the chair.
When she kicked at my sister, yes.
When your sister tried to pull her leg.
Correct.
And then she stood up, and your sister was getting up, right?
They was taking her out.
They were taking your sister out of the room because she had acted out. And what did you do?
In the midst of her kicking at my sister, I had stood up and had my arms out. Oh. All I remember was getting hit ball cap. Okay. And all I remember is him, the guy, the male nurse or whoever he was, taking me out the room. And then that's when I went to the nurse.
Well, took you out of the room and took your sister out of the room?
My cousin took my sister out the room.
Okay. So the cousin took your sister out of the room.
Yes.
A male nurse took you out of the room. Where's your mother?
My mother was still in the room.
She stayed in the room?
Yes.
Let's hear.
Your Honor, the nurse approached me and said, your family would like to know your father's personal information. I said, well, I would be happy to speak to my father's people because I knew it was only so much information my father wanted them to know.
You don't have to go. You've already said that. So you said no.
So
it's perfectly fine for you to say no.
Yes, and so my aunt said, we don't want to speak to her. And so I said, well, then I guess she won't find out. And then her sister struck me as I was sitting down. She said, you're an evil, and she punched at me across my face. That's when I had to kick myself out of the seat. And because I kicked her down on the floor, Miss Shalee, the plaintiff, and the mother all rushed me. The guy that she's speaking on is undercover security. The nurse, they even injured a nurse because I was dominating the fight with her sister. She rushed me and she grabbed me. And yes, I struck her and I beat her and I did whatever I needed to do to all three of them to survive. And I suffered an injury.
Let me ask you a question. Were you there with anyone other than the male nurse?
No, I was visiting alone.
Okay. Can I see your medical records?
Yes.
For that date?
This is all my hospital bills.
Medical records.
That is. It's medical records.
Let me have the medical records, please. Thank you.
That's not all. It's all of this. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's it.
Okay.
What date did this happen?
The 3rd or the 4th of December, 2016.
3rd. The 3rd?
Yes.
Did you go to the hospital that day?
No, I didn't even know I was injured.
Just a second. So the answer is no.
Yeah.
You
I went the next day.
For 2 days later.
Yeah, 2 days.
Did you have any out-of-pocket medical expenses?
No.
So it was all covered by insurance?
Yes.
And is this the same hospital that your father was in?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an elementary school teacher.
Did you go back to school after winter break?
Yes.
Did you go back to school after December the 3rd?
Yes, I just had a sling, that's all. I just had an arm sling.
Okay, Miss Taylor. I'm not interested in seeing your medical records because I think that you and the 2 other people that you came with, at least one of them created a provocative situation where you shouldn't have. Your fault.
Your Honor.
I'm telling you.
I have proof.
You have proof?
Yes.
That what?
That she attacked me because she put it on social media. She put on there that she threatened me if I come to L.A. She put on there she's going to fracture my other hand. All this.
Just a second. You assaulted her. You and your sister.
No.
No. Well, if you have any proof that you and your sister did not assault her, that I'll read.
Okay.
The fact that she threatened you if you come to L.A. and fracture your other hand, that's not proof that you didn't assault her. The 3 of you came to a hospital room with a sick patient and acted badly. I don't know about your mother. Not sure about your mother. I haven't heard.
She did.
But at least 2 of you acted badly. She's there alone. It's up to her to say, she can say she's his guardian. She can say he's not having visitors today. Goodbye.
Now
Listen to me. That she can say.
Okay.
You may not like that. Your mother may not like that.
They said that was good that she took guardianship over her body.
Listen to me. Then they can't ask the doctor questions. And your sister had to accept that. If they agreed to her taking guardianship, which means they didn't want to be bothered, then they have to agree with her judgment. And her judgment was, if you want to know anything about my father's condition, ask me, not the doctors. The doctor isn't at liberty to discuss his condition with his niece. Now, I will look at your proof that you say that she attacked you in the hospital room.
This one?
Because, you know, I have been wrong. I don't remember when I've been wrong, but I know I've been wrong. Oh, do you know that 4 females tried to jump me last night at the hospital? Mission impossible. And then she goes on to say they were mad because I had gotten guardianship and refused to let them get information from the doctor directly and told them that if they wanted to know anything, they had to ask me. They got mad, and the daughter actually tried to reach over her mom and hit me. Well, she only scratched me. She said I jumped up and drop-kicked her sister to the floor. Yes, she tried to attack me, but they had to pick her up off the floor. Her sister, mom, and even Dad's daughter rushed me, and I had my phone in my hand and cracked her sister in the face and hands and told her, don't ever run up on me. The nurse intervened and told them they are not about to fight me, and security started grabbing them. So I was one scratch on my face. So all she got was one scratch on her face. But one of their fingers is broken, and I'm certain that cousin will never attempt to something me again because clearly she was on the floor. So, you think this helps your case?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
you have to show me that you paid for the entire month of August in the apartment that you were living in together.
At the moment, I don't have...
This is the only moment. This is the court moment.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Michelle Taylor says her cousin, Amanda Kidd, attacked her while she was visiting her uncle in the hospital. Amanda is countersuing, also for assault.
So, you think this helps your case? You think, I'm just asking you, I said, what proof do you have?
She is telling everybody, it's not just that. She done had warrants put out on me and my mother and my sister. We didn't talk to one. She didn't have warrants put out on her own siblings.
I don't care. We are here to civil court today. I have to make a judgment. Criminal court never ruled on this. I would be bound by their decision if they found one or the other of you guilty of anything because their burden of proof is much higher. But they never did. So I'm telling you, you and your group were in the wrong. And the fact that somebody else, listen to me, the fact that somebody else, your sister and you, got the worst of the bargain as a result of this fight doesn't mean that you didn't start it.
We did not start it. Then the
complaint is dismissed, judgment on the counterclaim for $250. We're done. Thank you.
Why does that excuse me? Step out.
Because they like to dominate everyone in the family, and they can't dominate me, so...
My cousin Amanda, she's the devil.
The truth was shared today, and it was told, and we know the truth.
Don't nobody on our side of the family like her. Don't nobody on her mother's side.
Best guardian. And so it is.
It's her. It's no one else in the family, just her.
They are all habitual liars, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say.
It's not over.
And now, the next case.
20-year-old Sabrina Gubick is suing her ex-roommate, 25-year-old Andrew Kahas, for the return of rent and for bank fees.
Ms. Gubick, you rented a room in an apartment from the defendant.
Yes, Your Honor.
And it is your claim that you were forced to move mid-month.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the defendant and his family moved out, and you had already paid that month's rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says, well, he's not responsible for that because you could have stayed there in the apartment because the rent was fully paid for that month that he moved out. So it was your choice to leave. And he's got a counterclaim. And let me understand the counterclaim. The counterclaim is that the plaintiff had some friends over, and after her guests left, the glasses who belonged to your...
little brother.
Were missing.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe that she's responsible for those glasses because she didn't take the glasses, but one of her guests probably did. And since she invited them, that makes her responsible for them.
Yes, ma'am.
That's your counterclaim.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When I came home, there was her friends in the apartment living room, and I just asked her, you know, if we were going to have a party, and she said yes.
Can we move on with the story? I want you to tell me why you think she's responsible for your brother's missing glasses.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Sabrina Gubick says ex-roommate Andrew Kahas owes for the return of rent and bank fees. Andrew is countersuing for stolen glasses.
So what I want you to do is tell me, Mr. Kahas, what month did you move out, month and year?
The month of August, 2017.
Ms. Gubick had paid you rent for the month of August, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
She paid that to you on the first of the month?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did she pay you?
$600.
That was the sublet fee for her room. How long had she been living with you?
For a total of 3 months.
When you moved out, did you move into an apartment in the same complex?
Yes, ma'am. 2 doors down.
Was it a larger apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you invite the plaintiff to move with you into the larger apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
She declined?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
For what reason? I'm just curious.
I already had arrangements to go somewhere else starting September, so I didn't want to pack up all my stuff in the apartment we were in and then move it to the apartment that he transferred to.
To move twice?
And then have to move back out in September to where I was going.
Okay. So this is what you have to prove to me. Because if what your excuse is for not giving her back her August rent, and while she's only asking for $421, which is the prorated rent, she could have sued for the entire $600, which I would have entertained. You have to show me that you paid for the entire month of August in the apartment that you were living in together. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Show me.
At the moment, I don't have...
This is the only moment. This is the court moment. Do you understand? Because if you paid the entire month's rent, then the landlord would have no right to put her out.
I don't have receipts.
Then she's entitled to $421, which is exactly what she's suing for. Do you understand?
I understand.
Does that make perfect sense to you?
It does make sense, ma'am.
It makes sense to you, Bert?
Makes sense to me, Judge.
421. Now, I'm going to deal with your countersuit.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Now, in order for her to be responsible for your brother's missing glasses, you have to show me some connection.
Yes, ma'am.
Show me.
So the day that the glasses went missing, I was currently at work. My girlfriend was at home, and when I came home from work, I stopped by. It was just her, and I told her I was going to go to the gym.
And?
When I came home, there was her friends in the apartment living room, and I just asked her, you know, if we were going to have a party, and she said yes.
Can we move on with the story? I want you to tell me why you think she's responsible for your brother's missing glasses.
Towards the end of that day, everybody left, and my brother told me maybe a day later, saying that that day his glasses went missing.
Okay, good. She's not responsible for your brother's glasses. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $421. We're done. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you put this up?
I did, Your Honor.
With a spike strip for the cats next door.
I said, Bob, I'm taking him down because our cat has been injured with a puncture wound, and now I know how it happened.
You knew that they bothered your neighbor.
But this fight has 9 lives.
We are now 2 years later. Are your cats indoor cats?
No.
Nope. Keep your cats in your house.
Judge Judy.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheinlin. This is Judge Judy.
Donald and Tanya Gray are suing their neighbors, Robert and Janet Johnson, for medical bills, air conditioner repairs, and attorney fees.
Order. All rise. It's case number 359 on the calendar, the matter of Gray versus Johnson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. and Mrs. Gray, how long have you and the Johnsons been neighbors?
Actually, we've been neighbors with Bob for 20 years, since 1997. And then Janice came into the picture in 2007, I believe.
How long are you together?
I moved in 98.
So a year after Mr. Johnson moved in. Who has cats?
They do.
You have cats?
Yes.
How many?
We have 2, and one decided to live with us, so we adopted him.
So you have 3 cats?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the difficulty between you start over the cats and some spikes that were put up?
If I may, Your Honor, there is a difficulty that we discovered a pigeon spike trap that they put on commercial buildings to keep pigeons from landing on rooftops. My son and my wife, Tanya, discovered the trap hidden behind our shed out of our line of sight. And I actually have pictures of it. I'm not sure if you have those.
I don't have any pictures. I don't have
I'd
any
like
evidence.
to.
When did you find them?
It was in June 3rd of 2016. This is what we discovered behind our shed that was hidden from our sight.
Just a second. This was behind your shed?
Correct.
Okay. Did you put this up?
I did, Your Honor. We had a possum problem.
Just a second. On your property or their property?
It's a joint fence. It's a shared fence.
So you put up these spikes because you had a what problem?
Possum problem in the neighborhood, and we were worried about our dogs.
What kind of dogs do you have?
We have a Pomeranian and a Papillon.
Small dogs?
Yes.
Did you ever have a problem with the Gray's cats?
No, well, they come in our yard all the time and, you know, lay on our lounges and...
Get up on our roof.
Get up on our roof.
Let's go slowly. They come in your yard.
Quite frequently.
And they park themselves on your furniture.
Right.
And?
It just happens. We don't make a big issue out of it. It's not a big deal. Sometimes our dogs get upset, start barking and chase them around, but...
Okay. Was this put up for possums or to keep his cats on his side of the property?
It had nothing to do with his cats, Your Honor. They came...
Here you go. Would you return that to them, please?
That's not true.
Okay. Did you discuss this spike? Why don't you let me finish?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you discuss these spikes with Mr. Johnson?
Well, first
The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
When?
When we took him down after I called the local police department and asked him if it was legal to put up.
Just a second. The answer is you took them down.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm is not an
Correct.
answer. Yes is an answer.
Correct, yes.
Did you take them down before or after you spoke with Mr. Johnson?
Before.
I'm not speaking to you. Are my eyes
Before.
making contact with you?
Sorry, ma'am.
Before.
You took them down before. Okay, now this is a common fence, correct?
Yes, it's shared property line fence.
It's a shared property line fence. And you would agree that your cats don't belong on his property?
Correct.
Has Mr. Johnson or Mrs. Johnson ever spoken to you about your cats being on his property?
Not until that day.
Until what day?
The day that I took him down after I called the police.
And tell me about that conversation.
Well, I called the police first because I didn't believe it was legal, and the police told me
No, don't listen to me. I'm not interested in what you told the police and what the police told you, because that's hearsay.
Okay.
I'm interested in the conversation you had with either Mr. or Mrs. Johnson who were present.
He came outside, he saw me take it down. He said, "You can't do that, that's my property." I said, "Bob, I'm taking him down because our cat has been injured with a puncture wound, and now I know how it happened."
And he said?
And he said, "It's my property, you can't do that." I said, "I've already called the local police department."
Okay,
They said I could.
And you took it down?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm is not an answer?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you had this conversation with him, and this was in June of 2016?
June 3rd, 2016.
What efforts have you made since, if any, to keep your cats contained on your property?
Anytime I see him over on that side of our property, I shoo him back towards the garage or our side of the house.
Then the answer would be none. The only way to keep cats on your side of the property is to keep them inside. And because you choose to have cats that you let out and are outdoor cats, that doesn't entitle you to invade somebody else's property with your domestic animals. You wouldn't like it if he created a situation where his dogs would come on your property and defecate on your back lawn on a regular basis. You wouldn't like that. Your responsibility, now that you know that your neighbors is annoyed by your cats, is to keep your cats in your house.
May I, Your Honor?
Yeah, sure.
They had never come to us at that point and told us our cats were a problem.
Just a second. I'm asking you, subsequent to June 3rd of 2016, do you let your cats out?
They pretty much live in our garage. They do go out in and out, but there's other cats in their neighborhood.
Listen to me.
There's many.
Listen to me.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't care about other cats in the neighborhood. I'm talking to you about your cats.
Yes, ma'am.
And your cats are not contained. So to me, if you like your pet and you don't want your pet to be injured and you have 3 cats, you keep them in your house. Now, that's not what this lawsuit is about.
No.
But I have to tell you, if you think that I think that you do the right thing, I don't. Now let's get to your lawsuit. Your lawsuit is that Mr. and Mrs. Johnson sprayed a tree that was on their property and oversprayed the tree with some toxic chemical that caused you illness. You had to have your air conditioning system cleaned out. Who had a breathing problem? Raise your hand. You had breathing problems like some people have when they have cat allergies.
No.
No.
Asthma, medical,
listen to me.
dying.
Listen to me.
Yes,
Like
ma'am.
some people have when they have cat allergies. They can't breathe. I know that. So first, I'd like to see a picture of where the tree is. And am I correct? The majority of this tree is on their property.
Yes, ma'am.
What your complaint is that they sprayed something on the tree that caused damage to your property and your health.
Yes.
Okay, so first we need an expert to tell us what the property was that they sprayed on this tree.
We have hazmat reports. There's malathion.
I'd like to see.
There's a report right here, and it talks about...
Shh, don't tell me what it talks about. Are these 2 products, Mr. Johnson, products that you obtained at a store?
That's correct, Your Honor.
What store did you obtain them at?
Home Depot.
And they're both readily for sale?
That's correct.
And you applied them to the tree, these 2 products. Why?
We had an infestation of aphids on the tree, Your Honor.
What did you use to spray them?
The pesticide spray bottle has a wand with a little battery-powered sprayer that sprays about 1.5 to 2 feet.
I'd like to see a photograph of it.
Is this your wand?
It's just the back side.
Anybody have the back of this?
Yes.
So I could see what the warnings are? Okay. I would like you, Mr. and Mrs. Gray, to read the warnings on the back of this.
Your Honor.
And see, I'm speaking. 2 ears and 1 mouth. I've just read the entire back of that. It says it shouldn't be sprayed near aquatics because it's damaging to fish, could be damaging to reptiles. Don't swallow it. If it gets in your eyes, wash immediately, wash your hands, because it's clear from reading this report that they sprayed a tree because it had aphids with products that they bought at a local Home Depot. They sprayed the tree in accordance. We have no evidence that it wasn't sprayed in accordance with the directions that were on the back. So in order to be successful with your lawsuit, you have to tell me that they did something negligently.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's your burden to prove negligence.
The proof is that he never came and warned us that he was going to spray on a hot day with
Show
the
me.
windows open.
We had men in white suits come to our house.
We had a hazmat crew come in spacesuits at our house that wouldn't let us enter our home.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Donald and Tanya Gray claim next-door neighbors, Robert and Janet Johnson, were negligent when they sprayed insect repellent on a shared tree. The defendants are countersuing for harassment.
May I?
I'm waiting.
Your Honor? If you look at the report from the county hazardous material guy, I just spoke to him again the other day.
No, you can't tell me about you speaking to them.
If you read the report, he mixed malathion with ortho spider spray, and it's a definite no-no. You don't mix two chemical poisons together.
Just a second. Listen to me carefully. Show me where it says that on either container.
Judge, it was not diluted.
Just a second.
It was not diluted. It was horrific. I couldn't breathe.
It's supposed to be diluted with water.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. You have to tell me what. I understand that you were consumed by vapors because you were sitting in your house with the windows open, and he sprayed this stuff for aphids on his tree, which is not contraindicated here, that he wasn't spraying it in your house, in your window. He was spraying it on an infestation of aphids on the tree. You have to show me that either he did it maliciously, which you have no evidence of, or that he was negligent in some way. Now, the only way that you can prove negligence is not the end result, which was that some vapors got into your house. The way you prove negligence is that if he mixed these products and it's contraindicated on the label. What do you do for a living?
I'm a retired deputy sheriff, but I used to work in pest control.
Okay, so he's a retired peace officer. Right. So he's not a landscaper. He's not a tree expert. He's somebody who had aphids on his tree. So it's your burden to prove negligence.
I feel like
do you understand?
The proof is that he never came and warned us that he was going to spray on a hot day with the windows open.
We had men in white suits come to our house.
We had a hazmat crew with the fire department come in spacesuits at our house that wouldn't let us enter our home.
That's not true.
I went to the hospital.
Just a second. Just a second, sir. You called a hazmat team.
No, I didn't call them.
I called 911.
Just so she called 911, whatever it was. You called the 911 and said, I can't breathe. There's some toxic fume.
I could not breathe.
Oh, listen, we're in court now, and it's a lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you have to show me, he may have been stupid to mix these two things together. You have to show me negligence. The only way you're going to be able to show me negligence is if on either one, you're going to have to, and you have to show me these two products, that it says, do not combine these two products because they create a terrible, toxic condition to anything, any living thing within 100 yards. Just show me.
There was one of the gentlemen when we were in the hospital that was there that made them water their tree down. It was not diluted.
He's the guy that wrote the report.
Did you understand what I said? I'm going to finish reading the report. I'm going to finish reading the report. Do you have something to add to what I just said?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm listening.
She was there.
Listen, I feel sorry that you're sick. Your sickness is irrelevant to this case. So if you have something to add.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
On the bottles, I'm sure that it definitely says must dilute the chemical in order to spray.
It does
Whether
say
it
that.
was combined or not, it must be diluted to be safer.
It does say
Just
that.
a second.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have that on both bottles, then your next level of proof is that he didn't follow the directions.
Okay. I see here it is ripped during a portion of the paragraph, but I see here do not apply or allow to drift to blooming crop or weeds.
Listen to me carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
You just said to me it's supposed to be diluted.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the first level.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for where it's supposed to be diluted. And then you have to have proof that he didn't dilute it. Just show me where it says it's supposed to be diluted.
It's not in that report, Your Honor.
It doesn't say it's supposed to be diluted. The report may say it's supposed to be a lot of things, sir. This is a product that's sold over the counter in Home Depot. You may be injured. I suggest you, if you're injured, then what you have to do is sue Home Depot and Ortho.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If he followed the directions and sprayed aphids on his tree...
That's my point. He didn't follow the directions.
Show me.
Your Honor.
All I'm asking you to do is show me. Just because you say it, sir, doesn't mean that it's true.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Donald and Tanya Gray are accusing next-door neighbors, Robert and Janet Johnson, of creating a biohazard when they sprayed undiluted insect killer on a shared tree.
Now, if he followed the directions and sprayed aphids on his tree...
That's my point. He didn't follow the directions.
No, show me.
Your Honor.
All I'm asking you to do is show me. Just because you say it, sir, doesn't mean that it's true.
They don't have a picture of the directions. They only have a picture of the warnings.
That's not their burden.
I understand.
It's your burden to have a picture of the directions on both bottles to demonstrate that either bottle says do not combine together, must be diluted with so much water. Then a report that says to me, which this doesn't say, that it wasn't diluted would show negligence on their part.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's your burden. It's not his burden. It's not his burden. It's your burden.
They were not in our possession, so we could not get a picture.
Go to Home Depot.
I looked at Home Depot, Your Honor. This malathion was not sold at Home Depot. I even asked
Just a second.
at our
Just
store.
a second.
Your Honor.
Then get it from another store. Get it from Amazon.
I thought by having our hazmat and the people that were there...
We're done. We're done.
Seriously?
Do you... Oh,
Yes,
very seriously.
I'm sorry.
Oh, very seriously.
Wow.
Oh, very seriously. And we're done because sometimes neighbors do things that are totally unintentional, and it causes damage. There's no indication here that an incident that occurred in 2016 caused them to spray a tree a year and a half later with the intention, put your hand down, with the intention of causing injury to you, so that your burden is to show negligence. In order to show...
Ma'am, I have an example of negligence. 5 to 6 weeks later, they had a construction crew in their driveway cutting dangerous resin countertops, blowing onto all of our vehicles and into us working in the garage, and they didn't come warn us then either. And that's poisonous. The gentlemen that worked were wearing respirators to protect themselves, and they didn't warn us.
Just a second. You've been living next to both of them for 20 years.
Correct.
Not both
Listen,
of them.
I'm not going to hear both of you. So make up your mind. You sit down.
When we first moved... Your Honor,
I'm not interested in first moving in.
We had
right now
keys to their home. I helped take care of his mother when they would go on weekend trips. Bob has been to... It is Janice. Bob.
Just a second. I'm going to leave you in a second. Okay. I want to know, you've been living next door to each other for 20 years.
Correct.
Step up. Step back up.
20 years.
Correct.
What I'd like to know is, the first incident that I heard where there was difficulty was 2016, which was 20 years, almost 20 years. Sit down.
This is very important.
Sit.
I'm
not... Sit.
Yes.
I'm very...
I found your information for you.
Good. I'm going to let you come back in a second.
All right.
You lived next door to each other for 20 years.
Correct.
Until 2016, as far as I can